I wanted to start this review off primarily on this side of the vehicle to show you one important thing with this review compared to others, and that's right there. There's no window sticker there. That is because this is my car. I purchased this and I'm keeping this. I was not looking to get another car this year, but life had other plans. I told myself that when I did get my next car, it would be a hybrid. Thankfully, Subaru came out with the Forester Hybrid option right when I needed it. While I may not be a car reviewer, I am the owner of this vehicle, and because of that, I feel I can bring a unique perspective of actually using it as my daily driver, taking it on a few trips now, and showing actual real-world MPG and more. There will be a lot of comparison to my previous 2015 Forester, which is still on the road. I'm just not the owner of it anymore. Am I happy with the Forester Hybrid? I'm Wanderer001. Let's get into it. Coming back around to the front, I want to point out a few things about the Forester Hybrid for 2025. First being that I did get the base level, which is the premium. There is nothing below that. After the premium, you have the sports trim and touring and etc. However, there's a lot that they stuffed into the what they call the baseline now, which you would have to pay extra for on the ICE version of the Forester. I'll point them out as we go along. But coming around to the front of the hood here, one of the biggest things that you'll notice is the grille for the 2025 Forester has been changed. And yes, I personally do think it looks a little more like a Ford than a Subaru it has in the past. And there's some things that I don't like with this particular remodel that they've done. I actually was away on vacation and parked next to the previous model year to get a better idea. And part of it is the windshield actually tapers up in the corner. So while it still is really big, it pinches in instead of being straight lined up, which is not terrible. It is still one of the most class heavy, crossover SUVs that you're going to get, and keeping visibility excellent. They definitely have moved to a more aggressive front fascia with this, as you could see with the lighting right here. It does have a set of LED daytime running lights, as well as SRH headlights, which are steering responsive headlights. As you move your wheel, the headlights will follow you around. It's actually really cool to see. And when you start the vehicle up for the first time, you actually will notice, if you're in the dark, the headlights kind of aligning themselves as things get started. They also have adaptive high beam assistance, which is nice, kind of turning off your high beams for you as long as you have the car in auto mode. For the headlights, down here we do have fog lights, which are LED. You don't see them as often in newer cars, but I'm glad that they are included with the Forester. Coming into the engine bay is where you're really first going to start noticing the differences between the hybrid version of the Forester and the internal combustion version. First being, you're going to see that it still uses the CVT engine, and it's got lots of orange wiring letting you know that that's high voltage. Don't mess with it. It does have a total system power estimate, they say, of 194 horsepower. Now, what I will say is I have noticed, because I've taken this out on a couple trips now, it does have better passing feel than the internal combustion version of the 2015 Forester that I had. Of the 2025 Forester that my wife tested when she got her Outback, it felt comparable, but I do feel that there was a little more passing power with the hybrid version than the ICE version. And because of that, it does pretty well on the highway. The stated MPG from Subaru is 34 city, 35 highway. Internal combustion version is 26, 33 respectively. Now, in actual use testing of me taking this on straight highway, if I stay within the actual speed limit and not drive super aggressively, we'll call it, I was able to get this up to 38 mpg on the highway. When I did mixed driving, I was able to get 36.9. And when testing for this, we'll call it aggressively driving and putting it into sports mode, I got between 34 to 35 on the highway, which for a symmetrical all-wheel drive system that is constantly putting power to all of the wheels, I'm going to call that a win. It is definitely better than what I was getting with my 2015 Forester, where I was getting, if I was lucky, 26 in the city, and I could gingerly get it up to about 33 on the highway. The hybrid system here, for me, has been perfect. A welcome advantage compared to my previous Forester. Stated range from Subaru for the hybrid is 581 miles, and for the ICE version you're looking at 547. Based on my projections, depending on how you drive it, you could extend that greatly or diminish it quite a bit, but those are the estimates from Subaru. Now, as I said, aside from the electronics for the electric motor, everything else in here looks exactly like you would have with your standard ICE Forester. You've got yellow caps letting you know, hey, these are the places where you can change fluids, do some general maintenance on yourself. You've got your air filter over here. You've got your fuse box right here, and kind of cut out here is a battery. Even though you have a hybrid battery system, you still have your in-hood battery, which is very useful. Now, because this is a hybrid system, you might be interested in the actual startup noise. Well, if you don't have any of your climate control systems on, generally you're going to get a quiet start. And as long as you have enough battery in your hybrid battery, that's how things are going to start. It's going to be dead silent. But if you idle for a while and the hybrid battery runs down, then you'll actually kick over the internal combustion engine. So let me show you the two sounds that you can expect from this, because one, even if you're running in completely battery operated mode, which is a possibility, or when you're going in reverse, because in the hybrid version, the electric motors take over when you're going in reverse. There is, at least in the United States, a mandate for your car to make some sort of sound when it's doing that. So let me show you what that sound is like, and then I'll try and get the engine to make a sound for you while it sits in my driveway here. Now, just by design there, you heard it's quiet when it first starts up, but also there's a lot of safety features that really didn't want this to like rev with everything open. So it doesn't sound as satisfying as it does with like an internal combustion engine. So just letting you know. Reverse sound while it's doing its thing, because it needs to make a sound. Now that we've heard what it sounds like in reverse, you may hear a slight tone if you're perceptive. That's just the hybrid system doing its thing. It's really quiet, and part of the quietness is also because of the extra sound deadening that has been added all over the vehicle to help keep the engine bay be quiet while you're on the road. Now that we've seen some of the noise dampening inside the engine bay, let me show you what that actually turns into on the interior. One last bit that I want to point out while coming into our engine bay area, if we come over here, you'll notice that there's a lot of rubber around things like the headlights or around the sides here. And that's to kind of help to minimize the gap between the actual front and the hood, which again will add to sound deadening, but also help keep the weather out of there. One of the things that I've noticed change in the 10 years since I purchased a last vehicle, or in January when I purchased my wife's vehicle, we have the actual, I'll call it a hood kickstand instead of hydraulics to keep your hood up. So something to consider. Oh, one last thing while we're in here, I'm going to point out is the Forester has 1, 2, 3 windshield fluid spots to send out water. That I'll say freaked me out the first time I did it, but if you don't mess with that during your test drive, you might not know about that and think there's a problem. So just pointing that out for you. One last thing I want to talk about while we're looking at the front here is the latch. The latch is located right there, but it is very tricky to find because the gap when you actually pop this open is like that big. So just know a little to the right of the stars and you'll just fiddle around with it to get the lock open. As we come along to the side, I did roll down the front windows because it's just way too hot right before it rains here. So just know front windows don't actually have any tinting. Back windows, you do have some tinting. The overall curb weight of the Hybrid Forester is 3,800 73 pounds compared to the 3,569 pounds of the ICE version of this vehicle. So you are getting an extra 300 pounds in the back because of that battery. You do, however, keep the same 8.7 inches of ground clearance, which Subaru is known for. And I really appreciate that fact because, well, that's one of the reasons I like Subaru, is that ground clearance. And I'm happy that with the hybrid version, they were able to keep that level of ground clearance. If we come over to our mirrors, on the hybrid version, they are dark gray for the premium. You do not get same body color. And sadly, with the premium, you also do not get LED indicators on the side for when you're turning. That starts at the sport level. I wish that they had that as even an option for the premium. My wife's Outback, when you got the premium and then an extra package, that was included. And that was with the blind spot monitoring and cross lane assistance. One other big difference with the hybrid versus the ICE for the premium is the hybrid starts off with these 18-inch wheels as opposed to the 17-inch that you get on the non-hybrid version. Also, once you go into the sport level, now you're getting into the 19-inch. And for me, I like a little more rubber on my tire than I do having a fancy wheel. Now that we're looking at the side, you might have noticed it on the front. There's a lot of this black plastic around the wheel hubs, the front, along the base here. And on my previous version, I did have a bit of this at the base, but Subaru definitely has moved into having more of it around areas to make things look nicer, make it look different. I'm not sure. I don't know how much of a fan I am with that, especially with the length that I keep my vehicles for. The black plastic does tend to fade out, so you will need to have something like this in order to keep this looking new and nice. One other thing with this particular model year refresh is right over here. I'll take a picture of it, but there is a vent built into it, and I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if it was to help cool the regenerative braking system, but it is on the ICE version of the Forester as well. I really want to see how that'll hold up in the snow. Sadly, I gotta wait a while before I'll be able to test something like that. There is a little hybrid badging on the side here, which is nice. It is parallel to the deck as opposed to what I've heard, the Crosstrek that will be coming out later this year, having it angled with the body panel. Speaking of the body panel, there are some aggressive molding spots all around the vehicle, kind of lending itself to making this look more like a sport utility vehicle as opposed to a utility vehicle. One of the big changes that I don't necessarily know if I like with this, it has grown on me over time, but the badging here instead of being on the back, it takes a while to get used to. I have gotten used to it. I like it now, but at first I was a little torn about it. One of the great things about the Forester is when you open the doors, just how wide they are. And let me show you, there is a big difference with how wide you can actually open these doors compared to the Outback or other compact SUVs. One other thing that the Forester has that I like is right here, that black cladding on the door actually goes down all the way. So you don't have to worry about getting your pants dirty when you're coming in or out of the vehicle in the snow. It goes all the way to the bottom of the vehicle. As we come around to the back of the Forester now, you can see more of that very chunky black cladding, as well as what looks like it should be a light beam going across, but it's not. It's just accenting. The lights in the back are mostly LEDs except for your backup lights. If you're wondering about towing capacity, you can tow 1,500 pounds with this, which is the same as the ICE version. You'll notice what looks to be cut out for a dual exhaust system. However, this one only has the single exhaust. And just like on the front, you do have a tow hook access port right there. And in the middle, embossed on the back, is Forester with the hybrid logo as a badge right there. This is one of the things I don't particularly care for, is the embossing. Yes, I will admit I've had to replace this back panel on my 2015 before, and these little logo things are expensive, but the embossed logos like the Forester has here do tend to collect dirt and streak down, as you could see here. This is a month after getting some dirt and rain and not doing anything with it, so just know you might have a little more upkeep to do with this. Now, one of the things that's standard on the hybrid that is an option on the ICE version of the Forester is the automatic liftgate. Now, there are several ways that you can open this. Whether it's a button on the key fob, whether you utilize the button that is located right here, just to the right of the camera, or kicking just underneath and to the left of your bumper. Now, I will admit, I thought that the kick one was a little gimmicky until I had to use it because my hands were full of stuff. Even on the Outback, you have to wave in front of the emblem. The kick honestly, I feel is a lot better. And let me actually show you that in action, as well as the maximum height and what a person looks like under that. Now, I am 5'7", and there is a bit of clearance above my head, even when standing directly in the middle. I'll actually back the camera out a little more so that you can see what this level of clearance looks like. Yes, I know the camera is a little crooked, but you can see at 5'7", I do have enough room. And you can adjust this to the height that you want by pulling down and pressing a button over here, which will zoom in to show you. At the top of our rear gate, we have a button for close and lock, which will allow you to lock everything and close the back. You have a open and close, but this is also how you can grab your little handle here, hold down to your desired height, press and hold that, and it will tell the liftgate to not open or close past that level. Coming to the tailgate, you do have two LED lights right there, and you have door or off. I prefer them in the off mode. Keep in mind, these are LEDs even if you don't get the LED package. There's actually only one area that you get LEDs that would be incandescents in the hybrid version, and I'll show you once we get to the inside in the front. Now, if we come and look a little bit into the back here, I want you to notice one of the big things that I had to pay attention to was the bumper. It's much thinner than it was for my 2015 Forester. Yes, this right here, this little guard is an extra that you kind of plaster on there, but I like having that because there is a low enough transition between the back and the bumper that I didn't want to have to worry about scratching it. Now, speaking of our back, I left a couple things in here to point something out a little later. But you do get right here, it's a cargo blind cover, which is nice. It is removable, but cannot be placed underneath the area here because, as you might have heard, this does not come with a spare, which I will show you momentarily. Overall cargo capacity is 27.5 cubic feet when you don't put down the 60-40 split rear seats. If you do that, then you're looking at a total of 69.1 cubic feet. Now, what does that look like? Let me demonstrate that with some Tupperware. Here you can see I can easily get two 20-gallon Tupperware containers in the back and still have room if I were to push them over. I could get an extra book bag in there or something a little thinner. Now, if I were to drop the 60-40 split for the seats, I can easily get two of the 20-gallon containers on one side, and then I could have another two over here. Sadly, I don't have enough for this demonstration, but still leaving enough room up front. If I wanted to push these all the way up to the backs of the seats, I would have more room in the back here to add some more flexible odds and ends. Now, part of the reason I left that stuff piled over here beforehand is I wanted you to see that there were some things from my previous 2015 that I used to be able to put underneath here, and because the battery lives here, that means there's no spare tire. There's also less of a well, we grab this, to put stuff in. So here you can actually see you've got your tow hook over here. Here is your battery, and then the cooling system for the battery that swings up that way. But just in the front here, that's all you get for storage. And I had a lot more stuff stashed in my 2015 than I do in my 2025 hybrid here. Now, if I were to move some of this stuff out of the way, a lot of people don't show this. They say, yes, it comes with a tire repair kit. It does. But this is the other half of the tire repair kit. This is the stuff that you actually shoot into the tire to repair it. Yes, there is another spot over here which houses the compressor for the tire repair kit, but the other portion is under here. There is a little shelf right there to store some stuff that they kind of get loose on you, so you don't want to keep anything there too valuable. There are tie-down hooks in each corner of the Forester to help keep things in place, whether that's a net that goes around the back or just things that you want to tie down. Up here, we do have some grocery bag hooks, and there is actually a DC or cigarette lighter in the back, which is nice, and then another hook. If we come around this way, you'll see that it's just the two hooks and a blank cutout. This particular model did come with the all-weather package, but the all-weather mat compared to what it was in my 2015 is ridiculously thin, and I've been eyeballing replacing this because I also want the seat back protectors, which I could not get on order, and I like the seat back protectors. So if you're going to do that, maybe consider a third party. If I do end up going with one, I will put a link somewhere that you could check out to let you know what you can expect. For the premium trim level, for the 60/40 split for the rear here, there's only one way to do it. Unlike some of the other packages that would have extensions in the back, here you only have, and they are accessible from the rear, but to make this easier for this right here, it's a little tab that pulls down, and there's one on either side, and that is how you would drop your 60/40 split for the rear. And even with the headrest still attached, which is something I normally do is take them off, you still get enough room with them folded down and don't have to worry about the headrest. Coming across to the passenger side of the Forester, you could see hybrid badging on this panel as well, but I want to point out the gas tank. There is one. The gas tank is the same size as the ICE model, which I'm going to say is 16.6. But for me, important factor, the door. On just about every Subaru model currently, you just push on the door when the car is unlocked and the gas door will open. I don't like that. I'm used to having that be something that I have to depress to open. Thankfully, because of the hybrid system, that needs to depressurize before you actually put gas in it. So there's a button inside on the dash that you have to push that will open the gas door in the back. So I like that. For me, that was another plus of the hybrid system. One thing I want to point out also is the roof rails. If you get the premium version, you get the standard raised roof rails, which I actually appreciate more because I live in the Northeast, and when I need to clear snow off the top here, I kind of grab onto the roof rail to pull myself up there to sweep things off. I don't like the low profile roof rails. So for me, that's a plus. And I don't have to get new rails to go across because I already have ones that work with this. But now let's switch over to the handheld and start going inside the Forester and give you a look at that. All right, now we're coming into the back. You can see that side molding is built into the door frame itself. You've got extra safety features with the bolt there. Taking a look at our side panel here. Some people don't think it's nice enough looking. Me, I'm looking for utility in my vehicle. So having plastic here and on the handles is nice. This is also a somewhat soft plastic. And then here we have our cutouts for drinks and so forth. And they even indicate right there. This is definitely not big enough in my opinion. And I'll show you that in a moment. If we swing over to the interior, here you can see there's a large step so that you can access your roof. And here are the little touches, which I haven't really been going over, little nods to Subaru's history built into the hybrid Forester. If we come up this way, you could see this is the seat back for the passenger, and the driver is just the same. This is a different material than is actually on the front or even on the back. You can see there's actually a zipper in the back. This is actually a stronger synthetic material to stand up to kicking and scratching from children or adults or pets that you might keep in the back of the car. Now, sticking with this, a lot of people say they like the design of the new pouches in the back. I don't. I like one really deep pouch because I'm limited to what I could put here. Yes, I could probably fit a smartphone there, but this one is shallow. This one, which should go much deeper, doesn't, and I could barely fit a spare poncho in there. Just food for thought. Down here, we also have the all-weather mats, which again are thin and don't cover everything. So consider very cautiously when picking out what accessories you get with your vehicle. And if we come around to the back here, this is our seating for our rear passengers. You will easily get 2 teenagers and a small child or 3 children in here easily. You may be able to get 3 adults who are comfortable sitting next to each other. Coming around to the back here, see what the headrest looks like, as well as the cloth seating, which is something that I wanted. You do get some blue stitching as accent with the dark. This is the dark gray color instead of the light gray color. As I mentioned before, here is how you drop your 60/40 split. And then if we come down here, this is actually, you can tilt the seat back as long as you're sitting in it and lean back a little bit. Not as much as with the Outback, but a little bit on either side, not the middle. You also do have your child's seat strap down areas right there. And if we come here into the middle, you do have an armrest with 2 cup holders. And we're going to use this as an example time to come in here and show you what it's like for these cup holders. First, hot beverage mug fits, but it's kind of sketchy. standard water bottle fits, but is a little loose, even with the extra grip that you have from these rubber flaps. And then last, a really thin bottle that I use. It fits, but it's not going to be very secure. We'll put that up and move along to our passenger side over here. Does the lug fit? It does not. Does our thin bottle fit? It does, but it's at an angle, so not great. And does our water bottle fit? Yes, it does. That does fit. So there are some trade-offs that you get for the sound deadening that they've added to the Forester. First being, they really take in the side panels. Like, there's not a lot of extra usable space for you. You do have your speaker system here if you don't have the upgraded Harman Kardon. And I have been utilizing the very, very large expansive moonroof for my back to help with lighting. Here we have our rear LED, so on, off, or door. And again, like I said, you don't need the upgraded LED package for this. You do have blank handles located here. You can see there's a little cutout there, and I am hesitant to do this. This is the headroom and what filming in 96 degree weather looks like. So there's plenty of headroom for a 5'7" person in the back, as well as legroom. This is passenger legroom for my current seating position. I'll throw the ruler out there. We're looking at 6.5 for my knees and plenty of feet room underneath there. Driver's side will be a little different. So this is the rear passenger position for me, and my driving position in the front there. At 5'7", I have just about 7.5 inches of knee room, which is good, and a little bit of space under there, since that one is actually a power seat. Don't want to stick your feet under there too much. But if we come over here, yes, you do get a rear vent system, which I really like. You do have a 3 amp USB-C port and a 2.4 amp USB-A port. Here would be heated seats if you got the Sport or above. If we come across to this side, this is the person sitting behind the driver, and this is your vent for your hybrid battery. Now, it's very important to make sure that you do not cover this up so that your battery stays cool. And you should come in and clean this out occasionally. Now, I'm trying to show you, but it's very difficult to see. There is a little mesh behind the front grille to help keep debris from getting in there, which is important. You want to make sure that that stays clean so that your battery runs at an optimal temperature. So much so that they actually give you a belt clip to keep this passenger seat belt out of the way so that it doesn't cover that vent. Speaking of passengers, if we come here and look up here, this is where the seatbelt goes when not in use for the third person. So it would slip under here and then come down here. So it would click into here and lock itself into place. But with the rear of the vehicle out of the way, let's move up to the front. Coming outside and along to the driver's side here, you do have touch responsive door handles to lock or unlock the vehicle as long as the key fob is within range. I do appreciate that they still give you the key cutout just in case you need it. Moving over to our side mirror, this is part of the all-weather package. You get a heated side mirror, and if we swing around this way, you could see the cutout where your LED indicator would be if you got the next package up. You can also see the little dimple right there for the blind spot monitoring. I'll show you a little more of that once we get inside. The door, both passenger and driver, do have a puddle light underneath, which will illuminate the ground just to make sure that you could see where you're going at night and not stepping in anything, which is nice. Coming inside the door here, we're going to look at our controls on the left. Soft touch materials. We do have two-tone in material, which I do kind of like, and that blue stitching accent, which is interesting. There is a nice bright orange indicator letting you know that your door is open, but this is not chrome. And in the Outback, it is. I have mixed feelings about that. I personally don't care, but I know some people might be expecting a little fancier trim in something of this price range. Down here, we have our mirror adjustments left and right with a toggle, door unlock and lock, auto windows for the front, and then for the rear, you have depressions, and then prevent your people in the back from opening the windows. Now, I will say these are a little smaller than I would like for these controls, but again, this is me coming from a 10-year-old vehicle compared to the new one, so times have changed. Coming down, we have our map pocket and water bottle container holder. You can see these are a little better than the back. So here we have my full-size water bottle, my skinny water bottle, which has been going through since it's so hot out, and then my full-sized container. It does fit, but has to come out at an angle. So for me, not the greatest. If we come over to our 10-way power seat with forward and back, up and down, and lumbar support, you can see the dark material, again, fabric material with the blue stitching. I kind of actually like it. I liked this over the lighter material, even though in my previous vehicle, I had a lighter color interior. The bolstering on the side is nice and plush and keeps you in place. And there is even a little bolstering on the seat to kind of help keep you planted. Now, the one thing I was not sure about were these headrests. In my previous version and in my wife's 2025 Outback, they are adjustable. This is the placement. This is what you get. You come for a side profile. It hugs the back of your head nicely, and it took me a little getting used to, but overall, I do kind of like the headrest. It has grown on me. I appreciate it. If we come down to our control area, there you could see the all-weather mat, not collecting everything. If we come here, you could see there is your accelerator and the mat does not go up even close to it, which I really want. Brake. When talking about our brake system here, this is going to be a regenerative braking system, meaning as you step on the brake, you're not immediately going to engage the brakes. You're first going to engage the regenerative battery charging system. However, what I will say is I do not notice a real difference between changing over from regenerative to actual braking all that much. The one thing I have noticed is it's a little bouncier when you take your foot off the brake. So just something to consider. Footrest coming along the side here. You have your hood pop, and then our controls. You have your full EV mode control, which you can go a little distance on full EV mode. You have open or close the rear lift gate. You have your kick open, on or off. And I still say, Subaru, you need to do a better job of like indicating when that's on or off, especially when you go wash the car. And then down here, we have our fuel door, open or close, and then extra buttons if you get more toys to play with. And then right here, we also have a lighting switch for the 100% digital dash and the infotainment center in the middle. Coming inside, we're gonna start things up so you can hear how quiet it is. And the fact that it's also jumping right into EV mode. I'm gonna open up some windows. Here you could see your 100% digital gauge cluster. Again, I had mixed feelings about this at the beginning. I like physical tachometers and things of that nature, but there's enough information here that I have really enjoyed it. You'll notice right here that there is a ready, and then if it's in EV mode, it will say EV over there, like it does now. Because when it's in EV mode, you can't hear anything. So those are the only two things that are gonna let you know that your car is on. And pay attention to those, because I have accidentally walked away from my car while it was in EV mode, and the car chirped at me, but I had no idea what that chirp was because it was within a couple of days of me getting it, only to find out I left the car on. Thankfully, it was in my driveway. Over here on the side, you've got your indicator for if it's charging, if you're in eco mode, or if you're in power mode, as well as a speed limit, and then your MPG right there. I do like the fuel gauge, has enough tack marks for me, even though I don't appreciate that it's digital. I really wanted that to be physical. Over here in the lower left-hand corner, we have something that we can cycle through. This will be your battery, whether you're charging the battery, whether you're taking power from the battery. But if we cycle through this, going up one, that's going to be your media player. We're going to skip that because that's actually going to show you address based on your map. This will show you your PSI of your tires if your car is actually moving. Next, we have how long your car has been on and the miles that it has gone. Then here we have your MPG and miles till empty, and that's going to be a live readout. This is going to be your average for your tripometer. So there you can see my last driving habits, 33.8 and 204 miles till empty. If I switch that over to B, which is overall, it's about 32.6 and 240 miles till empty. That is including some stress testing that I was doing for the vehicle. So MPG will only improve as I settle into my driving habits. And then if you don't want that, you can have it disappear. Now, coming back this way, we're going to see our controls on our steering wheel. So first and foremost, we're going to look behind really quick. These are our lighting stick. You've got your headlight controls as well as your fog lights on and off. Over to the right, you've got your windshield controls. I wish they had more intermediate wiper settings, but alas, they do not. And then here's your trip reset button. I like the placement a lot better than I do on my wife's Outback. Coming to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, which is synthetic leather wrap steering wheel, not leather and not fake plastic, just synthetic leather. It's an interesting texture. It's an interesting feel. If you touch one of the leather wrap steering wheels, you will notice the difference. Behind on either side, you have your paddle shifters, plus and minus. And then coming down to the left-hand side, we have our media controls for skipping tracks or fast forwarding. You have your source button to change between XM satellite radio, terrestrial radio or media that you're streaming from your phone. Coming down, this will actually change your digital cluster. If I press and hold this, we can shift between a map view, which I will place in here because I don't want to actually show where my map is. The concentrating on this view, which is cruise control with auto. I'll turn that off. That's what that one is. And then coming back, we've got our standard with the cruise control icon turned on. If you don't turn that on, you don't see the little car. The car does have pop-ups letting you know if somebody's in your blind spot, as well as if you touch the brakes, you can see right there. Coming back to our steering wheel, we have answer a call, hang up a call or mute, and then voice commands. One quick tap uses the Subaru voice commands. A long press will use the voice commands on your phone. And then here we have our media control volumes. I wish that they would swap these because I play with these more than I play with that corner there. And I kind of like having the raised bit. Coming over to the right-hand side, here this is going to control our cruise control distance, how far, how less, turning it on and off, set and reset, and then auto if you want the car to center itself, lane center it for that. Don't particularly like that, feels weird. And then here we have the ability to change between sport mode and intelligent mode, which is something that you would have to go into a higher trim level for on a different vehicle. So I like that that's included in the hybrid. I want to swing really quick over here. This is the blind spot monitoring. It is not as good as the old version that is on my wife's Outback, which is a giant line. I don't notice that unless I'm actually looking at it, which is why I try and keep the cruise control icon up there, because at least with that, I will see that there's somebody in the blind spot because something will pop up. Now, if we move over to our center gauge here, this is broken up into 3 separate areas. First and foremost being, you've got this up here, which these are hard coded in. You can't do anything about it. You've got your temperature and you can see how bad it is outside right now, your time, and then if you're connected to your smartphone, which I am. This up here is adjustable. In fact, even the icons that are in this one are adjustable, and I have it set for compass, speed limit, and then angle of my vehicle. I can change things by turning on turn by turn. You can see the different options that we have right here. There is weather, which is great. And then X mode. Now, with the hybrid version, you do get the enhanced X mode being snow and dirt, normal, and then deep mud. I like that. I appreciate the fact that that is at least added in. Moving down, we have the next portion of our infotainment center, and this is going to be your controls, or if you have Android Auto, you can load that up, but I'm not going to. The one problem with Android Auto is if you're running your car info here, you cannot see this screen and still be in Android Auto. Now, you do have your auto vehicle hold and then car information right there, bring you into some settings. One thing I will say with the hybrid over the standard ICE vehicles, you will not notice the shift from ICE mode to battery mode quite as much as you would with the engine shutting off in the ICE version of this or in the something like the Outback, which is also why they don't have a way to turn the auto start stop off. Coming down, now we have our climate controls. This is the third area. This, I do not like being part of this screen. And the 2026 Outback is going to get rid of that, which I appreciate. And I honestly would pay for a head unit replacement for this if I could get my physical buttons back. I do not like playing with these because apparently I play with the climate controls a lot more than I thought I did when actually driving. And a screen, you have to look over. You can't just rely on your touch. I do appreciate that there are physical buttons for temperature controls, front defrost, rear defrost, and then mute and tuning. But I wish that there were more because one, the screen is kind of sluggish. I do not like that. You can see it. It takes a little bit of doing in order for that to do anything. And I do not appreciate that, honestly. Thankfully, you can do a lot through voice commands, which help to cut down on that. Example of your backup camera with lines and predictive movement. You do actually get a little bit of your license plate in there, which is odd, but it's nice. It's not as bad as other vehicles that I've recently tested with rear view cameras. It still feels a little pixelated, like they just kind of enlarged the stamp size camera that I had on my previous Forester. If we come over to the left, here is your start stop for the vehicle. And down here, we come to our center console area. You have a wireless charging mat, which you do have to turn on or off. If you are actively utilizing this, it will turn on a fan under it to help keep things cool. It's not the greatest because if you don't have your phone absolutely centered, you are not going to get the best charge out of this. And what do I mean? Well, here you can see on screen me playing with actual numbers to see the charge that you get from this. So if you're actively using your phone while driving and charging it, and it's not perfectly placed, it's not going to be great. However, thankfully, you do have a 3.5 in, a 3.0 USB-C, and a 2.4 USB-A. So if you need to charge, I would probably use those over the charging mat, which is slightly textured and rubberized, but not enough to keep your phone from moving around if you have a glass back or something like that. Coming to our drive, you can see I'm actually on. It is piano black, so it will show scratches unless you put something over it. The shifter itself is a nice feel, and I do like the material around it. And coming back, we have our electronic parking brake. I don't particularly care for electronic parking brakes, but that's just me personally. Here we have our cup displacement. So here's a question. Who gets which cup? Me? I think that's the driver. Coming down, we have cigarette lighter or DC power port. There's another thing. I don't know if I like it here in the center console because I have my GPS plugged into that. I tried plugging my GPS into that and it thought it was a computer, so that didn't work out. I see that this is raised, but I am a little concerned that fluids could make their way into that. And if we swing around, we've got a little center cutout for some pens and stuff because we do lose a bit of space in the center console and armrest here. It does not slide forward like my 15 did, which I kind of miss. But if we open it up, you can see it is okay size-wise, but you do lose out a little bit in there. Coming back up the center console here, you could see now I've turned things off and you could see it does collect fingerprints and dust a little bit. Yes, I do have a GPS in place there, but that's more for my personal preference. Right there, that is an ambient light sensor. And then as part of the all-weather package, you do have heat underneath your wiper blades to keep them from frosting over. Coming up this way, you do have the triple sensor of the eyesight for Subaru. One camera on each side, and then one just past this, and then me in the mirror there. Standard is your regular rearview mirror, not the digital one. Don't know how I feel about that. Coming up this way, we've got our SOS and information. We have our LED lights, and then our open and close for the moonroof, and then sunglass taco holder right there. You do have old blank handles on the side. The one thing that I do not appreciate about the requirement of Starlink, and this was the same for my wife's car, if you want to remote start, you need Starlink. And it's kind of expensive. Yes, there's a suite of other things that it does that I kind of like. Telling me if my windows are unlocked, telling me if my doors are unlocked. Those are all things that I could do with Starlink, but I don't like the necessity of paying for a remote starter. And pardon if the camera angle has changed because, well, my other camera decided it needed a break from the heat. Coming over this way, we have our sun visor, reasonably sized, does have an extension here. So unlike the Outback where you would move the visor itself, this one you actually have a piece of plastic that comes out the side. And this is the one place that you have an incandescent light if you choose not to have the LED package. I want to point that out because save yourself a little money if you don't need LEDs in your window visor. Coming back down this way, we're going to see, here's our air condition vents. I don't like the vertical controls. They're tricky, and there's no close for the middle. If you had the horizontal ones, you could close them off. You have some texturing over here, which is interesting to look at. It's soft touch material, just like the dashboard up there. Coming down, we have our reasonably sized glove box, but if you keep your manual in here, it's going to eat up a lot of the space. Looking over at our windshield, here's another Easter egg thing where it has a bird, just like in your moonroof. You've got a bird. Taking a look at our passenger side seating, here we go. This is the visibility that you can expect from this vehicle, which again is class leading in my opinion, which is one of the reasons I really like it. And if you look very closely underneath the wiper blade over there, you can see a little mountain range, also indicating a little hidden Easter egg for Subaru. Overall, for the interior, it has been enough of an upgrade from the 2015 version while still not being super refined. And for me, that's what I want. My vehicle is a utility vehicle. It is an A to B. It is a hauler of stuff. And that's what I want my interior to be. I don't need wood grain. I don't need any of that. So I'm happy that Subaru, at least in the premium version, has kept that feel. Part of me wishes this was leather or at least plastic. I don't know how I feel about the synthetic leather feeling. But that has been a look at the interior. Let's go back outside. Honestly, I really was not looking to get a new car for myself so soon after getting a new vehicle for my wife. But that just seems to be how this year is going so far. I told myself that the next car I got would be a hybrid, and thankfully the timing of Subaru adding a hybrid powertrain to the Forester was very good for me. While I like the look of the previous model year. More, the look has grown on me over time. If you're looking for a great all-wheel drive vehicle, you can't go wrong with the Forester Hybrid. While there are other options out there that will get better MPG, if you're looking for a Subaru, you already favor the symmetrical all-wheel drive system and are willing to take a hit in MPG compared to other brands. But the Hybrid Forester MPG has been enough of a step up from my 2015 Forester that I have been very happy with it, and I think you would be too. Did I not cover something that you wanted to know about? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer your question. If you appreciate the time and effort that go into making a comprehensive video like this, make sure to hit that like button to help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here and want to be notified of my next review, hit that subscribe button. Want to see my 2 other Subaru reviews? On screen now, you'll see the other 2 vehicles that I've reviewed for my daily drivers.